Lesson 12, Organizing Content with Flexbox. Number 2. The first 3 steps we typically follow when applying Flex properties are: establish the layout, define the row direction and if items should wrap, and define how items should be distributed. Let's try the first 2 steps. Establish the Flex layout and define the direction. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to build a container. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to build our div container, and we're going to give it a class equals, don't forget the parentheses, container, okay, and then, oh, close it, and then we're going to close our div. All of our pictures are going to be in this div. So we've now divided out this section. So we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you notice, a purple box appeared around it, some purple coloring. If you see that, then you know you've done it right. So now that we have this set up, we're going to go to our style page. The first thing it wants us to do is establish the layout. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to display our flex. And don't forget the semicolon, because if you forget it, then when you put in the next step, it will not work properly. All right, so now we want to define our flow direction of the items and whether it should wrap. So we have rows. So we're going to do our flex direction. And we have rows. So we're going to do row. And then we have our flex wrap. And we are going to wrap it. So when we wrap it, when we move this, it'll just start coming underneath. Kind of like text wrap, it's the same thing. Now, let's say we don't want it in rows. If you wanted it in columns, you could just come up here and change this to columns. And now it's in one giant column. Let's say you want it to reverse the numbers. We could wrap it in reverse. That puts that over here. If we put it, right now we only have a column, so it just shifts it over. But if we were to put this back in a row and reverse it, it's going to reverse our numbers the opposite direction. Goal is to make our web page look like this web page. Justify content. After we enable Flex for container items, define the flow direction and whether the item should be wrapped or not. The next step is to define how the items in the container should be distributed horizontally across the container. We will do this with the justify content property. So, should it be on the left side of the screen? Should it be on the right side of the screen? Should it be centered? Should there be space? Do this. Add the justify content property to each of the 6 div container rules in the style sheet. So we're going to go, they've already done our classes for us, so we're going to go to the style. And we have our container 1. So this right here is our container 1. Okay, so we have our direction. We now need to add our justify. So we are going to justify content. And if we look up here, it's centered. Center. Now, what did I do wrong? I put this in the wrong group. So I'm simply going to take this and make sure that I am in the right container, container 1. There we go. Now that I'm in container 1, I got justify content center. Now I'm in container 2, which is the next line. I'm going to justify content. Okay, so if we look at our image, it's centered, but we got some spacing. So let's take a look. We don't want flex and centered. So we got either space between, space around, or space evenly. We're gonna try space between. Oh, if we look, that did not do what we wanted to do. So let's try space evenly. All right, did that do what we wanted to do? Nope, I would say we still don't have it quite right. So let's see what space around looks like. All right, I think that looks like the picture. Make sure you put your semicolon, and then you're going to go down to your next container. Now, what you could have done is you could have, as you went and went, oh, this looks like this one, and went to the right container, but we didn't do that. So we are going to justify content. And then I think the one that looked like this, we did space between. Let's see if that looks right. All right, that looks like our picture. And then we're going to go to our next container. Okay, and then this is probably the one. So we've already got space between. We've already got space around. So this is probably going to be our space evenly. Ah. Now, you notice space evenly is not in the drop down menu. You actually have to type in space evenly, semicolon. All right. So we got our space evenly. The last two, I want you to do those two on your own. You're going to have your flex start and your flex end. See if you can figure out which one is which. Make sure, even though your sixth container, one, two, three, four, five, six, your sixth container already looks like everything's on the left, it is not coded. So make sure you code it that way